71 years ago, NASCAR broke ground on what will become a classic and marquee event in the sport for many years to come. Tonight, we continue to honor that tradition once again as we say good evening to KBRN's throwback coverage of the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series from the Darlington Raceway in South Carolina. We're happy to have you join us on a trip back in time, and we are ready to cover each and every lap of this prestigious event. My name is Kenneth Bueno, joined by Charlie Baier in the booth as always, and we are excited. We've been excited for this event for multiple weeks on end until this event. The stage is set, the drivers are excited. This is the time for Darlington, and you know, what can we really expect? I mean, where do we really start from here?
Yeah, this track is definitely one of the more challenging tracks on the schedule, and you know, we're gonna see how these guys just attack these corners. And you know, what's really unique about this track is that the line around this track is almost all the way against the wall, so there's gonna be a lot of skill that'll play into this race, and a lot of throwbacks here tonight. Throwback race, throwback theme for us KBRN broadcasting here for you guys tonight, and we're gonna see a lot of those throughout the night. But I'm pretty interested to see how these guys attack this track. So it's one of the more challenging tracks, like I said, and it is a tire chewer, like some of the past tracks in the last couple of weeks that we've been through.
Yeah, great night on the horizon for sure. And with that comes the throwback cars that you mentioned spread out amongst the field. We have multiple colors, multiple different designs. You know, some are more present than others, but we have some of them paying tribute to drivers and teams of times gone by. And you know, apart from the unique schemes we have here tonight, we have a unique track this time around. It's the only time we see this track this season. Of course, every other track on the season we see only once. But Darlington is that little feeling of anticipation when you come to this track. There's a little bit of a special feeling coming here tonight. But this track is tough in its own right. Like you just mentioned, tire chewing. You know, what's really the challenge for these drivers once they reach that green flag?
Yeah, and yeah, like I said, this track is just really challenging. And once that green flag drives, we're going to see guys automatically utilize that high line and all the way up against the wall. You see Preston Cope making laps here. The line in 3 and 4, you want to be all the way up against that wall, and like you just did right there, it's so hard to keep it out, and it takes almost surgical precision to make a hot lap around this track. And we're going to see it all throughout the night here. We're going to see a lot of banged up right sides of race cars, and all those beautiful paint schemes are going to be scratched up, I can guarantee you that. So yeah, when that green flag drops, it's going to be aggressive, but people are going to have to be cautious.
Yeah, it is. You have to really pay attention to this treacherous track here at Darlington. And you know, obviously this night is supposed to be, you know, a little fun. You know, you set that throwback vibe. You kind of take it a little easy, but you know, it is definitely not easy in the point standings, and it's a good moment to bring that up right now in the middle of your screen and show where everybody stands after last week's race at Charlotte. Blaze McKinney still leading the point standings in what has been a dominant season for him so far. Curtis Granger 68 points behind, he stays in second. Ryan Potter rounds out this top 3, so this top 3 is spread out pretty much 72 points between these 3. You know, Blaze McKinney with a dominant lead. He's had it for a long time, and he continues to stretch it out here. This is Parker White 4th, 82 points behind. Hankins in the top 5. JJ Hill, Kelan Belsha, those 2 drivers are Instagram Buds Racing members, but Kelan Belsha joined recently Peak Performance Motorsports development, so that's a good news for him coming into tonight's event. Glenn Bundren behind him, an actual PPM driver himself. Carl Faust 9th. Grayson Trexler falls just inside the top 10, and now we're just 2 races away from that elusive playoffs that these drivers have been chasing the entire season. And that's one of the more compelling storylines going into tonight, and then of course going into next week at Vegas, where things amp up even more, considering the fact that that's where they decide the top 10. So that's going to be even more interesting. And also another driver to mention, Nick Miller, winner last week at Charlotte, led the most laps, and he did that. He was 37th in the point standings. He shot up 23 spots to 14th. So that's something we should be watching here tonight. You see his scheme, a dark matter scheme on the Chevrolet Camaro. He's rocking that tonight, and that's one of the drivers to really watch. He's 14th, so if any drivers mess up, and some drivers aren't even in session, that could produce a really good momentum for that 88 team to get into this top 10. But our pre-race coverage is just not over before we get warm-up underway. See a couple drivers going around the track. We got a little bit of a pre-race interviews, I think, to get. I think we just have one driver waiting to get an interview, and that has been the most dominant driver this season, that 87 machine of Blaze McKinney. We're going to bring him in here, see his thoughts going into tonight. Blaze, first of all, welcome to the KBRN Racing Network studios. You got a copy with us?
Yeah, I gotcha.
All right, Blaze. Well, I think you have been the consistent topic of conversation this season. So dominant among the past couple races. You have 192 points. You lead second place by 68. So you're currently have first place locked up if you attend this week. Of course, you're attending tonight and next week at Las Vegas. And I want to ask you just a couple of questions, and then we'll get to the Darlington fun stuff a little bit after. You know, going into these final two races, is there somewhat of a game plan for you in that 87 team? Is there something that you guys are kind of keeping under the covers, let's say, when it comes down to keeping yourself in that first spot and preparing for the playoffs?
Yeah, did a lot of practicing for this week because, you know, Darlington's a pretty tough track. Just trying to make sure can at least just be consistent tonight, and just I'm not really looking to dominate or win or anything. I just want to get through here clean and just get another good finish, try to hang on the points lead. It's pretty much all that's important. Go back to winning, focus on winning at least when the playoffs start, and try to win the championship. But tonight I'm just looking for a decent, just consistent run, just to make sure we keep our points gap.
Yeah, consistency is the key for you, and it has been the pretty much the main thing with you throughout this entire season. Average finish 3.14, so that has really not shaken up this entire season. But you know, I want to ask you about Darlington. You know, Darlington is a unique track in itself. It's an egg-shaped oval. You know, it's a tough challenge for a lot of these drivers, and you know, you have that fun with the throwback, but then you have the seriousness and handling and manhandling this old track at Too Tough to Tame. Is there something notable about this track? Is there something you've noticed throughout the run that you could possibly use, or something that you may find very tough around this racetrack?
Yeah, just especially the time. We're starting in daytime here in practice, and then it's just going to slowly get darker and darker as the session goes on, and just by the end of the race it'll be probably dark. So it's just change. The track is going to change, and it's just going to get cars going to handle different, and it's going to get tighter, looser, just a bunch of different stuff, and it's just going to just be really interesting to see what happens. Hopefully we can just keep up with everything that changes and try to win the race.
All right, Blaze. Well, we're going to let you have your fun, your throwback scheme tonight. And I want to talk about that throwback scheme just shortly before practice runs up. We're really almost done. So what is your throwback scheme? Explain to us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's a family used to be in late model racing, and I just thought I'd go away from like typical stuff that people do with throwbacks, like their favorite NASCAR driver or something. I decided to go from a family standpoint. It's a paint scheme my uncle used to drive back in the day, so I decided to bring it back and run it here, and hopefully we can get in victory lane.
Well, hopefully your uncle's watching the action here at Darlington tonight to see if you can get it done. Blaze, we're going to let you go and have your fun here at Darlington. We wish you the best of luck, and we hope to see you throughout the rest of the season and coming tonight.
All right, thank you guys.
Blaze Mckinney out of the booth, one of the more dominant drivers we see tonight. We're going to get one more short interview as we get qualifying just underway. I think Charlie will handle that one. We'll get to that just as practice is warming up. Oh, no, never mind. He's out of the waiting room. So practice is over. That means qualifying will begin, and that means these drivers will take their fastest laps around the Darlington Raceway to get their qualifying time set, and that means we'll get to the starting grid once that is over. But right now, we have the pre-race festivities going down trackside, and they're going to perform your national anthem, the Salute Your Nation's Colors, before we get going. Throwback Thursday? How about a Throwback Monday in the iRacing Bundren Lawn Series? All drivers ready to bring their best, and so are we tonight on the K Bueno Racing Network. Just a little more info about the Darlington Raceway before we get going. It's a 1.366 mile oval located in Darlington, South Carolina, United States of America. Track temp looking about 114 degrees and an elevation of about 157. So a little higher up on the ground than we've seen tracks like, let's say, Homestead. But an interesting track nonetheless. It's an egg-shaped oval, so what you see in turn number 1 and 2 will not be the same as what you see in 3 and 4. So that's one of the more interesting things. You have a tighter radius around 3 and 4 than you do in 1 and 2. You kind of have to take those corners differently, and that's going to be something interesting to see as these drivers go on tonight. But you know, I think one of the things we should do before we get going is take a look at the schedule we have after tonight's race. Of course, after tonight, Las Vegas strikes next week. And from there, we'll settle the drivers who will fill the top 10 in the point standings, who will run for the playoffs, and of course, the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series Championship. You see, 2 different settings you're looking at within these last 2 races. A 1.366 mile egg-shaped oval, which is tonight, of course, that I mentioned, and the more traditional 1.5 mile oval that we see next week come into Las Vegas. And you know, I really want to ask, what does it really take to set up a smooth transition from this sort of track and this abrasive track to something more traditional like Las Vegas?
Yeah, you definitely want to find your rhythm at these tracks. And, you know, we've seen our fair share of short tracks and 1.5 mile tracks. We've seen all kinds of tracks on the schedule already. So you really just got to find that rhythm. Just try to stay consistent, practice your laps, and I guess know what you're doing headed into this weekend and other weekends for sure. So I think just getting set, finding a rhythm, and just having an overall good playoffs is really important.
You mentioned the playoffs. There are the playoffs right there under that blue line. That's the playoff start date, and that'll be where Chicago, Charlotte, Roval, then you have Talladega, Martinsville, Kansas, Bristol, all the way to the finale at Phoenix Raceway for the championship. But we have a long way to go until that. That's something we need to cover a little more coming next week at Vegas, when we have a little bit more of a perspective of what that top will look like for your championship. How about talking about last week and the Charlotte's race? Last week, that was a 100 laps of excitement, as I should say, at Charlotte. Nick Miller led the most laps. A win. Blaze Mckinney, that you're looking at on screen, finished second. So he had a really good run there. Almost had the checkered flag there, and that's certainly something to watch as we roll down. But I think we've pretty much covered everything through the top of the show. I think we can kind of get into the weather just before we get qualifying finished. You can see the weather on your screen and where that shows up. A track temp, 81 degrees. Of course, Blaze McKinney mentioned in the interview that we're going to take the sun right now, but then as soon as the race starts going, as you see it right there, transition from the full daylight to the sunset into the night. That's something to watch for. Of course, 2 mile per hour wind speeds and a partly cloudy evening here at Darlington. And with that, we have qualifying set. We have the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series' best drivers on the field right now, and here is where the best will start. Going into row number 1, pole goes to the 21 of Hunter Johnson at 23.939. He starts on the pole for the first time this season. Right alongside him is a driver who missed a couple of races but had a really good show out at Homestead. That's the 04 of Ezekiel Reyes, starting on the outside of row number 1.
And in your second row, Brody Garner in that number 55 Dogecoin Chevy Camaro, starting right behind the pole sitter. Right beside him, points leader, Blaze McKinney on the 87 car. That will round out row number 2.
Going into row number 3 will be the 018 of Dylan Basin, sporting a Pepsi throwback this evening. Alongside him, another Pepsi throwback. We got 2 Jeff Gordon Pepsi throwbacks tonight. That's the 47 of Preston Cope.
And 2 more identical paint schemes behind him. Those are the 2 new Evo SimSport drivers of Andy McDowell. Sartaj Man, formerly Peak Performance Racing, joined Evo SimSport and SPG Racing today. So a big jump in teams for them. They'll round out row number 4.
Back to row number 5 is the driver we've been talking about, who wants to get into this top 10 and is oh so close, 4 spots out on the outside looking in. That's the 88 of Nick Miller. He starts on the inside of row number 5. Routed to his outside is the number 19 Michigan race winner, Jackson Hartman.
Row number 6 on the inside is Kadarius Tave, starting 11th. Into his outside, Dominic Cow, driving for Proximity Racing. The Trey Shoulders-worth designs on the hood. That'll run out your row number 6.
Going into row number 7, LWRC driver in the 00 of Brady Wheelman. He starts on the inside of row number 7. 2 is outside the 097, making his second start, and sporting a Dale Earnhardt Jr. Throwback is AJ Bain in the 097. We'll take a look and see where the rest of the drivers stand and where your favorite driver could potentially be through the rest of the field as we get set to go green from the track Too Tough to Tame. And we have an exciting night on our hands, a sunset into night race, so that's going to be very, very interesting to see. A proximity driver up front like we saw last week at Charlotte. Of course, a different driver, and Connor Brandon was last week. This time, it's Hunter Johnson, Ezekiel Reyes on the front row. Then we have the 10, the 87, running out row number 2. Coming off of turn number 4, pace truck is off. We are green on the Retro Racing broadcast. We're happy to have you join us. We are green from Darlington.
Smooth sailing at turn number 1. Looks like Hunter Johnson will maintain the lead. Here comes Brody Garner. Bit of shuffling behind them. Those guys in the back. To the inside goes the 10 car. Brody Garner looking for second, but Ezekiel Reyes holding his ground on the outside.
Had a little bit of contact through the backstretch, but relatively clean through one end. For third, heating up between the 10 and Brody Garner. A little bit of contact between the two. That's the 87 of Blaze McKinney to the high side. Hunter Johnson with the early lead. They're looking 1, 2, 3, 4 as they're battling behind them. And now the 04 will try to put the pressure to the back bumper of the number 21 as they head down the back straightaway into turn 3.
And you can see that sunlight beaming down on the front stretch. I know you're looking at a screen here, but iRacing does simulate the brightness of the sun and the rays inside of the windshield. That is a bright backstretch if you're driving down it. But still, cars are filing single file, bit of a breakaway between those two leaders. Behind them is Brody Garner in the third, Blaze McKinney in fourth, and Dylan Basin in that top. Round out your top 5.
Sporting that Pepsi scheme tonight, and running out in 5th right now. You're seeing the battle for 3rd continuing to heat up. Blaze McKinney back to the track, and one of the things to mention about Darlington, and as this race progresses, you mentioned sunset. The blaring sun is right here right now, but as soon as the race starts to progress over this 125 lap event, you have the sun going down, and then you have the moon coming up, and then the track grip changes, the track temp cools down. You have a little bit more grip to work with in terms of those high downforce cars, and that's something to watch for as these drivers go through. But right now, Hunter Johnson still early leading right now. You see just about 5th on back is pretty much separated from this top 4. It seems tensions between the 10 and the 87 seem to have cooled down for now as these guys are trying to go through their tires. You see Nick Miller to the outside of what looks to be Preston Cope in the 47. That is, again, Nick Miller looking on the outside, looking in, trying to get into this top 10 for this playoffs. Currently 14th. He needs a good run right now. He's trying to keep conservative to stay cool right now. But 125 laps, again, like I mentioned at Charlotte, when you have that length of a race, you have to really keep yourself calm. You have to keep yourself cool and conservative, and keeping your car together for what could be a possible ending like we saw last week, where it was a green-white checkered, a driver on old tires versus everyone on new tires, and then of course we saw how amazing that finish was. So that could be something we could be watching for here tonight.
Yeah, and one of the things about Darlington is how little of racing room you have. You see, cars behind on that 4 of Kadarius Tate almost got squeezed up by the wall by, I believe, the 30 car of Dominic Kell. Yes, that is. And that's just one of the characteristics about Darlington, is just the little racing room that you have. And around looks to be going to 30 car. He'll save it on the apron. That's also the 20 of Andy McDowell. They're both going to save it. Smooth sailing. Also, Brady Wheelman in the wall behind them, looking 3 wide in the back, but they're going to stay green as those guys made some pretty good saves.
Dominic Howell had to really wheel that race car to the bottom, and that really lack of space you have at this track. You see the grooves right there, and then you really can't go any further down because it's too low of a banking to get any sort of grip and keep your speed. You really have to slow the car down to even get to that bottom groove under the dotted line. So of course we haven't seen any drivers do that so far yet, and what we're seeing right now is that 10 of Brody Garner looking to the inside for P number 2 under the 04 of Ezekiel Reyes. They'll battle side by side to the front straightaway. That'll allow the 87 of Blaze McKinney to peek into the top 3. And there goes the pass by the 10, and 87 trying to look for P3.
That car moves up to second place. He'll look to try to close the gap to the back car of that number 29 car. Also, Blaze McKinney sitting solid right behind the 04 car. So, again, we're going to talk about a lot of characteristics about this track, but another thing is how much the tires get chewed up here, because the goal here is to just run the wall, and you want to crank that wheel, and that's going to tear up your right front tire. So, as you see, Ezekiel Reyes, his tire wear might be getting to the best of him as he's fallen back almost out of the top 5. Here comes Dylan Basin. Looks like smoke on the back shredder. Not sure who that is.
Well, it doesn't look to be a caution right now on lap number 10. Ezekiel Reyes, a little bit too early on. Now he's falling back into the clutches of Dylan Basin. We have a caution on the racetrack, and it looks to be the GoDaddy machine. I think there's someone down pit road as well. I believe that's Brady Wheelman in the 00. It is. So he goes around hard contact. We saw the smoke on the back straightaway, but we wasn't sure whether that was the cause of the yellow or maybe that was just another Zeke. And here's a replay.
Yeah, it looks like he just got into that outside wall. That outside wall out of turn number 2 is hard to stay out of, especially in a lower downforce car, kind of opposite of these cup cars. But, you know, that's such a sketch turn to come out of, and there's not a lot of racing room. You can't even go too wide without even getting worried about touching that wall. And looks like just got the press of the 00 car, and he got in, spun around. That's another car. I believe that's Mitch Hobbs who flew right by. Yes, that is. So good on him for not plowing into that one.
So early caution on lap 10. That'll allow the rest of the field behind Hunter Johnson to take a trip down pit road, get some of those fresh tires, like Ezekiel Reyes, who was kind of struggling near the end of that run before the yellow came out, but he leads the rest of the field down pit road. They'll take 4 fresh tires and fuel. We'll see where they line up out of the pit road. First pit stops here tonight. Of course, the first yellow here tonight at Darlington. We had really early yellows at Charlotte last week. It doesn't seem to be the case this time around, and hopefully that stays the case. We had a lot of yellows at Charlotte last week. Here comes the battle off of pit road easily. Hunter Johnson, Ezekiel Reyes follows in second place, McKinney to third. It looks like
Brody Garner.
Brody Garner.
Brody Garner
Go
is
back.
staying in his pit stall. I'm not sure. I don't think he's on the racetrack. Wait, no. What number is he? 10.
He's yeah. Yeah, but the slow pit stop for the 10. I didn't see him come out on the off of pit road, and there he is. I'm not sure what happened on that stop.
31-second pit stall for that 10 car. He falls all the way back to 15th place. So tough for him, but Hunter Johnson takes the lead off of pit road, and we're going to see on this restart how much of a difference those new tires make. And, you know, once those tires start to fall off, we're going to see a lot more lifting, some braking in the corners to try to stick up against that outside wall. And I know Hunter Johnson, he competed in the Landon Castle Hot Lap Challenge, which is at the Cup Cars at Darlington, and he was in the final round, did not win the $10,000 prize, but is certainly fast here, and he knows how to cut that top with almost surgical precision. So he's like a magnet up there, and I know he's fast around here, and pretty much any car that I've ever raced him in.
While you were saying that, the 87 of Blaze McKinney slowed to the apron. I think he stopped on the racetrack. Not sure whether that was something he had to take care of, but nonetheless, he's up to speed, back getting into the row. He was just in, I believe third place. So I think he'll file back to third where he was. I think he just had a little something to take care of through that caution break. So he's going to come all the way back to the front. He'll start third, so no issues for the 87. Thought it might have been, but it wasn't. And it was interesting that you mentioned the tire wear at this track. You know, of course, this track is different than any other track we see, but you can probably compare it on the tire wear level, I should say, sort of to like Homestead Miami Speedway. We saw how much of a difference the fresh tires over the old tires makes. We saw it last week at Charlotte, 1.5 mile oval. When you have those fresh tires, you are significantly faster than the guys on the older tires. You have to really maneuver around them if you're on a different strategy and such like that. But pretty much everyone behind Hunter Johnson took fresh tires, including your race leader. So we'll be on a level playing field when it comes down to tires and fuel. Of course, Brody Garner had a little bit of a hiccup on the pit stop, so he'll fall a couple spots down. Not sure really what happened to that 10 machine, but nonetheless, he can probably get that up concerning his aggression early and his moves early. But look who's into the top 4. That's an SPG entry. Trying to see what the number is. I believe it is the 49 of Sartaj Mon. Of course, it's the same car with him and Andy McDowell. They both have the same paint scheme, same manufacturer. They're, of course, newly joined members of SPG and Evo SimSport. So they're looking onto new ventures with that team as well. Also, members Aaron Mulrooney, Nick Miller, like we mentioned, those drivers also members of SPG. So SPG continues to grow. You know that we've seen that team expand over the last couple of months, not only on this series, but just in sim racing in general. If you've been paying attention to any sim racing events or anything in particular, you see, and if you're involved in the sim racing community, you've seen how much these guys have grown as a team and how many drivers they continue to stack up on their list. But right now, Proximity seems to be the main team to talk about with Hunter Johnson up front. He will lead the field back to green as the pace truck lights go off. That means we'll have the 1 to green signal. We'll line up 2 by 2 all the way down. Hunter Johnson, Ezekiel Reyes on the front row like it was when we dropped the green flag. Blaze McKinney to the bottom of row number 2. He'll start alongside, I believe, the 49 of Sartaj Mon. So, yes, that is to the outside. So, we'll take the green flag on a restart for the first time here tonight at Darlington. They'll go back down the back straightaway. Here's the camera into turn 3 and 4.
Gotta wait for him to come around, but this is the camera angle.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful view, especially as these guys go down, especially as the night. Super. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch through that camera, right up against that wall, see how fast these cars go around that corner. But pace truck is off. We're ready to go back fast here at Darlington. Hunter Johnson, Ezekiel Reyes line front row. Early jump for Hunter Johnson. We're back green.
Green.
Yeah, another good jump for that 21 car of Hunter O. Johnson, but a bit of a slip-up for that O car to the outside, and Connor Brandon is loose on the apron. Looks like he's going to keep that proximity racing car straight, and he'll get back going, losing a lot of spots there. But back up front, looks like Sartaj Man looking to the inside for 4th place. Here comes Nick Miller to the back bumper of the 04. And while that was happening, the 87 of Blaze McKinney cleared the 04 for 2nd place and can now focus on running down the 21.
Yeah, dip to the inside in turn 1 and 2. He made the best of it. Now filing into 2nd, one of the more dominant, the points leader right now. Of course, running this race for his uncle, running that throwback that his uncle used to run. We saw Connor Brandon get loose in the early stages of that restart. He's able to pick it back up, but he's lost a couple spots, so he has a little work to do. But here comes Nick Miller into the top 5. The first time we see him in the top 5 tonight, so he's been stealthily gaining his way back up there. He got around the 49, and now behind the 49 lurks the 2 of Aaron Mulrooney, who had a really strong run at Charlotte last week. Wasn't able to get it done, but he's looking for some redemption here. Not running a throwback scheme, but regardless, the talent is still there with that Aaron Mulrooney machine. As you're looking at Hunter Johnson continuing to gap the rest of the field, and look at the line they're using in turn 3 and 4, a higher line than usual. And then as soon as they go into turn 1, they're using down to the racetrack, back up the racetrack in the center, and then all the way down to the apron. That's a lot of fun to see.
And turn number 1 is kind of, these 2 cars are pretty much polar opposites. You can almost full throttle or at least lift just a little bit in turn number 1. You want to cut down on that apron there. We're going to see him wrap around here. And you kind of just want to cut down on that apron, slide up to the wall, then cut down once again, because that wall off of turn number 2 is much like Richmond, so tight. You have to hit it just right each time. And we're going to go on board with Blaze McKinney here. Just want to cut down, slide up towards the wall, and get ready for the exit of turn 2, in which, again, you want to cut down, because that's a big jump up from turn 2, and saw the back end start to slip around there. And as you come into turn number 3 and 4, this is where you really want to lift, because you want to hug the wall this entire corner. And then as you come to turn number 4, kind of want to dip down just a little bit while maintaining that that close proximity to the wall. So that's a lap around Charlotte Motor Speedway. On board with Blaze McKinney.
Darlington Speedway, and you were mentioning that lifting, with the fresh tires and the high, especially with the high downforce and the tires that you have. When you have fresh tires with the high downforce, you spend more time on the throttle than you really think you do. These cars with the high downforce, you have a lot of grip. You have lots of leeway to make a lot of moves and try to get your car in the best spot. and you saw Blaze McKinney going around turn 1 and 2 all the way down the racetrack, back up through the center, and then back down off the corners. You try to not hit that outside wall. It comes up very quick off of turn number 2. But the driver who's been flawless tonight so far, Hunter Johnson in that 21 machine, and we've seen this in multiple leagues across iRacing, especially the ice car, where he's the all-time winner. You know, he's number 1 in the all-time wins list. He's the winningest driver ever in ice car, and ice car is a larger league in the iRacing community, and he's been a staple of that one, and he's won a bunch of races. If you watch the ice car KBRN Speedstock Tour, he's won every race so far in the season. So truly, you know, it's not unfamiliar that his dominance shows every time he's on the racetrack, and right now he's making it work with the lap car in front of them. And now here comes Ezekiel Reyes back to second over Blaze McKinney.
And you're talking about Hunter Johnson being on all-time win list. He's against some of the best. Logan Clampett hangs around in that league a lot, races with them a couple times a year or a couple times a season. So he's with some pretty good company. Logan Clampett second on that all-time win list. So, and you see Nick Miller, who's looking for 2 good finishes this weekend, next week at Las Vegas. He's looking to punch his ticket into the playoffs. Blaze McKinney all the way to that back bumper and into the wall. Just scrubs it. Just a little kiss there on the turn 4 wall. Blaze McKinney loses a bit of time there, but Nick Miller up to third place, looking for second.
He's been gaining every single lap around this track, and now he's going to try to get under 4. You can't really do it off, though. Very tough, but now he's going to look to the bottom, looking into turn number 3. One time around there, we got a caution. As that happens, that's the 097 of AJ Bain. He goes around to the bottom of the racetrack. Heavy damage to the right rear of that Chevrolet Camaro. We're going to take a replay and see what happened. But the second caution is out on lap number 26. Take a replay, see what happened with that 097. He's working into 1 and 2 around this time. And, oh, wow. Contact with the 89.
He slowed up a bit. That 097 slowed up a lot in that corner. I guess the 89 just didn't expect it. And I just guess couldn't get out of the way early enough. You can't really jump down to the apron once you're committed to that line to turn 1. So unfortunate for those 2 guys.
The 97 of AJ Bain, just in his second start. He ran his first start at Charlotte last week, and he had a pretty decent finish out of that one, and rough night for him so far. But there goes Hunter Johnson along with the rest of the field. Once again, to be all takers this time by Hunter Johnson, Ezekiel Reyes, Nick Miller, who was battling for second. He wasn't in second just yet, so they file him back in third. But here could be the battle off of pit road that we are looking for once again. We saw Brody Garner lose a bunch of spots on the last time around. We'll see if that happens this time.
And Brody Garner under that run got in, just cracked into the top 10 there, which is sitting in 7th. So he rebounded just a little bit, but not enough to make it all the way back to the front. But the race off of pit road goes to that 21 car of Hunter Johnson. Looks like Air Maruni jumps up to the 4th spot under that. Preston Cope. You see Sartaz Man fell back to 7th. So that's a race off of pit road. And yeah, we're going to look at our chart here to see the pit stop times there. I guess
Blaze McKinney's still on pit road right now.
He is.
Yeah, and so was Brody Garner. Not sure what they're going through, what's happening with that 87, but he was running in 4th just before the caution came out. Now he went down pit road, and again we the driver back. The time continues to tick with that pit stop, a very long pit stop. So surely something must be going on. Now he's out of pit road. Well, I'm not sure what happened.
That might have been a precautionary measure because he saw. I mean, I saw myself. I didn't really mention it, but that right front fender was a little bent in, and you saw he scrubbed the wall off of turn 4, trying to right after Nick Miller passed him. So I think that was just precautionary measure, trying to get that damage fixed. And Brody Garner, I think he's just pitting every caution, and I think he's just trying to get those fresh tires each time. So he's dropping in the back pretty much every caution here.
That happened with Brody Garner as well. I think it's just damage repair that's for a good chunk of these drivers, and they've already gotten their Darlington stripes tonight, and that's something that we're going to see over the course of the evening. You look into the top 5, you see Preston Cope in the 47 with the Jeff Gordon paint scheme. I know he's a really big Jeff Gordon fan, so course, he had this opportunity to get that Jeff Gordon paint scheme as a throwback, running that Pepsi logo on the front of the hood, the old Pepsi logo with the DuPont on the side there, running those old classic blue colors. I believe this car that he's throwing back to was a car that won at Talladega, where I think where they threw the beer cans on the racetrack, and he was just doing burnouts over them. So that's an iconic paint scheme in its own right. And Preston Cope has had a pretty good runs through the past couple of races early in the season. He looked like he had, the strong winning cars that he had. He had enough to take a win this season, but he hasn't done so, and he's kind of gotten caught in the bad luck, throughout this season. He didn't really have a good run at Charlotte last week, so he's trying to really get a better run out of this and get a better look into the rest of the season going into the playoffs. So I don't think he's in the top 10. I think he's currently looking 22nd right now on the board, so in point standing. So he has a lot of work to do if he really wants to get in this 10. But I think right now the focus on that 4017 is just getting better finishes, trying to stay as consistent as possible, and that could be a really good note going into the end of the season and of course next season for sure. So Preston Cope in the 47, a throwback scheme with Jeff Gordon. You look back up front, you don't really have a throwback up there, but still it has been dominance for that 21 of Hunter Johnson. Ezekiel Reyes behind him, and Ezekiel Reyes finished third at Homestead early in the season. So of course he's shown that he's been strong and that he can be strong. He hasn't shown up for the past couple of weeks. He hasn't really every time that he does, of course, his first start at Homestead, he's done well. He's been consistent. He's been able to keep himself up front in that 04 Chevrolet. So good running for him. He's one of the more interesting drivers, especially since he shows up a couple of times, but each time he does it, he's always up there in the top 5.
And we got the 1 and green signal here. But before we go here, I just want to mention that if you want to ask us a question on the broadcast, make sure you're down in the YouTube chat. Use hashtag AskKBRN. Ask us any question relating to the race, our broadcast, about ourselves, about our, favorite, whatever you can name. We'll answer pretty much any question within appropriate measures. But yeah, it's a fun way to interact with our YouTube chat. So go ahead and drop a question, and we'll get to it.
And just use hashtag AskKBRN. Ask your question right after. And of course, we'll be sure to answer that in the booth. We already have one right now, Bell. I'm not familiar with Darlington. Asks, what other main tracks can you compare it to?
That's a tough one. I kind of imagine as a tighter Homestead, just with the high line. That's the closest I can compare it to.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting comparison. I'm not sure, but we're back green here at Darlington. Hunter Johnson still with the early jump. Here comes Nick Miller to the bottom. He easily takes second. Here comes the 2 of Aaron Mulrooney. You saw a loose race car in the 04, still trying to fight it with Aaron Mulrooney right to the back bumper. And you see a little battle behind them. That's Preston Cope and the 20 of Andy McDowell, another SPG, a newly joined team member. He's now into 4th, almost contact between the two. And now there's battling between there. There's 2 by 2, a couple rows deep back there. And we got a car around. Dominic Howell around on the racetrack, the 25 involved as well on the front straightaway. Caution is out for the 3rd time this evening. That's Trey Shuttlesworth. His debut in this season has just gone sour with a spin down the front straightaway, hard into the inside wall. That's going to be a lot to repair for that 25 machine. We're going to take a replay and see exactly what went down. They were battling off of turn number 4. Here's a look with the 25. Going into turn 3 and 4, that's where the trouble really started. There was some contact up there with the Jackson Hartman and the 014, but here's the focus right there. There's contact between the two. Then Blaze McKinney gets in there as well. He had a little bit of help to the 30. That sent him around, and there goes the 30 going backwards on the front straightaway, saving that car, but hard damage regardless.
Yeah, I think the 30 car just kind of got him in the front end, the back end there. Just turned him around, and 30 also got help from Blaze McKinney behind him, and just got caught up in the mess. Good on them for not sliding up in the traffic and holding their brakes, but just a tough break for these guys.
You saw the onboard cam. That was brought to you by Eel Media. And Dominic Howell around. He's going back. He'll flip himself back around, and he'll be back on the racetrack. He has to get that damage repaired, though, so that's going to take a while for that car. And and the 87 of Blaze McKinney, who fell so back on that last pit stop run, and now he was involved in that as well. I'm curious to see if there was any damage on that race car from that contact, but yeah, now he's down pit road, so there must have been something that got dented on the front bumper of that 87 machine, so he'll go down pit road, get that fixed. Well, a rough night looking for the dominant driver of the 87, Blaze McKinney.
Yeah, I think that's just more precautionary measure, trying to make sure his car is in tip-top shape. He was already toward the back, so why not just slap some 4 fresh Goodyears, get some tape on that thing. So, and he'll be back out there strong. You see Trace Shuttlesworth and all those guys using his fast repair, getting those 4 fresh tires on Trey, a good guy. I know him. I've raced with him a couple times, so has Dominic Hell, both racing for Proximity Racing. And Dominic has Trace Shuttlesworth's photography on his hood, so that's kind of ironic. But those two work pretty well together as a team.
We got an interesting question down in the YouTube chat by a good friend at Side Drafting Productions. This is a really good question. Do you think if Hunter starts winning a lot, if they'll put a bounty on him? That's interesting. I'd say I'm not sure, because the playoffs are starting, so I feel like that could change unless Hunter continues to race for the rest of the season. This is his first start, so if he continues racing, I think that's when they can put a bounty if he keeps winning and if he keeps making starts. If he just a one and done this time around, then obviously you really can't make a bounty. You can't really make a case on him. But Charlie, I'm curious to see what you're thinking about this.
Yeah, you know, I talked with you before the race, and I think Hunter Johnson is probably one of the only people that I'm confident that can go out and beat Blaze McKinney. And if he ran the full season, I can guarantee that those two would be going head-to-head for the points lead. So I think that if Hunter Johnson sticks with us, I think he'll win a lot. And I think that'll yes. The answer is yes for me.
I wouldn't really be surprised if Hunter Johnson just comes in here and starts winning a bunch of races. He's dominating. So, you know, if he continues this, I really wouldn't be surprised, considering what I've seen from him in a bunch of other leagues. We have another question by Ragely SX asks, who are our early picks?
I kind of just mentioned it there.
Oh yeah.
Strong in a lot of series, and he won the Road to Pro series. He won the first Road to Pro series race, not top split, but a lower split at Daytona. Took the win there, and just a really good driver all around, really strong. So he's my pick for this one.
So far, if I'm looking at a couple drivers down, of course you can't 21 and his dominance. I've picked him in some of the, of course, the KBRN Street Stock Series. I've been comfortable with mentioning him as a winning driver and picking him when it comes to this race. But I think an early pick right now is in the 88. He's shown some strength early on, and he's battled up between from where he started up to where he is now, which is P2. So, you know, Nick Miller has been resilient ever since the drop of the green flag, and considering the fact that he's on the hunt to get into the top points, you know, that gives him a sense of that he has nothing to lose, which really he doesn't at the end of the day. You know, he's on the outside looking in. That'll really help him going into the playoffs. And I think Nick Miller, with a strong run, he could end up taking the checkered flag over Hunter Johnson tonight.
Yeah, and Nick looking for just 2 good runs this week and next week. If he can get those, he'll be in the battle for the championship, and he'll be a contender for it. As some of the other fast guys who we've seen in previous races, like Elmer Rooney, Keaton Jones, like Ezekiel Reyes, they're not in the playoffs at all. They're out of the picture. They haven't raced with us the entire season. I've just shut up for a few. So I think that it's going to be a dogfight between Nick Miller and Blaze McKinney, because those are 2 very skilled drivers, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun watching them with those last couple of races.
So 37 laps in the books here tonight at Darlington out of the 125 scheduled to run here. While we're on the yellow, just before we go green, a good opportunity to remind you that to more K1 Racing Network action, you can tune in tomorrow night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern right here on this very channel. That'll be the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series, kicking off another race from Martinsville, the paperclip. That's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, it was supposed to be scheduled for today, but they decided to schedule it tomorrow through the night time. So that's going to be fun. But right now, we're looking at the fun up front between Hunter Johnson and Nick Miller. Early on, the gas goes to 21. We are back green on lap number 38 out of the 125.
Guys trying to get in line. Preston Cope up to the 4th spot. Almost contact with that 04 car on the apron. That's Ezekiel Reyes. He's going to fall back a lot. That's going to be detrimental to his run. You see Mitch Hobbs in the wall down the back straightaway. Lots of shoveling here. That's Blaze McKinney trying to get by him. But back up front, Hunter Johnson with Nick Miller right behind him.
Ezekiel lost a couple of spots down there, hitting the outside retaining wall. And also we saw one of the SPG drivers was one of that hit the wall off of turn 2. We saw a couple of drivers spank the wall, and there it is with the 88 of Nick Miller. He scratches the wall, gets his Darlington stripe, and now he's under fire from Aaron Maroney to the bottom of the racetrack. That'll allow the continue to gap his lead. Here comes Andy McDowell to the bottom of Preston Cope. He gets it done. He's going to look into this top 3 as they come off of turn number 4. Still side by side. We got a car around down the front.
And that was Mitch Hobbs. I think he might have alt-F forward out of the iRacing service, so to try to prevent the caution. We saw him struggle within those last 2 laps. I don't see him on the racetrack anymore, so thanks to him for not bringing out another caution, but Aaron Maroney under pressure from that 88 car.
The pass was made for Aaron Maroney. He takes over 2nd place, and we got another car on the wall. I believe that's the 49, Sartaj Mon. Yes, it is. But nonetheless, he continues to keep his position. And there is a battle behind them with Preston Cope. It looks to be finally back on the outside, so that won't be a battle just yet. But look how far Hunter Johnson has spread amongst the rest of the field, and especially with that wall hit by Nick Miller, that set up a good opportunity for the 21 to continue to hold his dominance over the rest of the field on the outside at turn 3 and 4. And Aaron Maroney, another strong driver from the same team as Nick Miller, he might be charging in the next couple laps.
And the gap between 2nd place, Aaron Maroney, and Hunter Johnson is a 2.5, but he is cutting that lap time. He is cutting that gap down, Aaron Maroney is, so it's going to be interesting to see Aaron. 2 former teammates, Hunter Johnson and Aaron, they were both used to be on proximity. Hunter Johnson's still on proximity, and Aaron Maroney moved to the Evo Simsport and SPG Alliance there, so 2 very strong guys at it once again.
Saw some 2x2 action behind there, and Blaze McKinney was in the mix as well. That's the 10 of Brody Garner. Those 2 fell back on pit road in the last 2 pit cycles, but they're working together to try to get back to this main pack, and they've done a good job of so. Now behind Kadarius Tave, so now they're in the 027, so they're working their way back up, trying to get back to where they started in the front of the field, working together right now, the 2 Chevrolets, but so far single file through the entire field. Right now, we saw the 2 wide happening over the course of the restart, and of course the last couple of laps. We saw some battles with these 2 on your screen right now, and a couple of other drivers battling with them as well. Seems to have calmed down, but you're looking at the 87 with a good run on the 10 going to the...
Yeah, and these 2 guys are probably the freshest tires of the field right now. They both pit under that caution and are really strong here. Blaze McKinney and Brody Garner. So back up front, lead over 2nd place. Hunter Johnson still has it, just 2.2 seconds over Aaron Maroney and Nick Miller. Those 2 have been battling quite a bit. Nick Miller with his Darlington stripe on the right side. Contact in the back.
Brody Garner's involved in there. The 4 of Kadarius Tave is involved as well. Drivers piling in. That was the 19 of Jackson Hartman. Ezekiel Reyes had to check up wildly to avoid that one. Damage to the 25 of Trey Shuttlesworth once again. We're going to have to take a look and see what happened. That 10 was under fire from the 87 of Blaze McKinney. I think he might have gone past, but we'll see. I think it was coming off of turn number 2 where we've seen a couple of drivers get into incidents already. But he was 2 wide in front of them. That was Preston Cope, the 014 in there as well. And I think here comes off of turn 2 right. I think right there. Yeah, there's the contact. Blaze McKinney gets a little piece of that as well on the right rear.
And we talked about it. We saw how limited of room that is off of turn 2. It looks like Brody Garner just stuck the nose to the outside of the 4 car, and I guess just kind of ensued from there. We're going to get a front bumper cam of that 10 car. On
board with Brody Garner coming into turn number 2
cleared.
here.
stuck the nose up there and just kind of ran him out of room there.
Yeah. Oh, you see Jackson Harmon getting there as well. I saw scooting by. I think he got some damage from there. Another look from Blaze McKinney.
And I think he got contact from that one. Oh, yeah. Saved it. Good save for him. He would have been straight sent into the outside wall.
Yeah, there's the damage. And you see everybody down pit road. We missed that. Maintaining his lead off of pit road. Aaron Maroney second. I'll leave Nick Miller falls to... Oh, no. Andy McDowell in a third. Good pit stop for that 20 team. So now he's into third. I think Miller might have dropped a couple of spots on that last pit stop.
Nick Miller is... Yeah, he's 11th place right now. Spent a whole minute down pit road, 25-second pit stop. I think he was just trying to get that right side damage repaired. Again, just precautionary measure. But he's back out on the racetrack. He's going to try to make up what he lost. So I would do the same if I was Nick Miller. If I'm fast and I got a bit of right side damage from the Darlington wall, I would go ahead and repair that. Even if it's just about 10 seconds of repairs, I would just go ahead and take it.
And of course, any aerodynamic dent that you have on these factor into how the car handles the run. And when you have those dents, when you have a little smack to the wall, you know that little dent could just affect the car just a little bit more than you think. You know, it could be, you know, just a little bit, a couple tenths. You know, you could be fast, but with that damage, it really holds you back just a little bit. So, of course, a good precautionary measure for the 88. We've seen a couple drivers. Seems to be the trend as soon as drivers go down pit road. And a couple drivers not afraid to get their Darlington stripe. They're getting that fixed. But we are under caution once again on lap number 48. Still a long while left to go in this event. We're going to take a little moment to step aside and take a little bit of a commercial break before we go back green here at Darlington. You're watching throwback coverage of the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series from the Darlington Raceway on the K-Bueno Racing Network. Welcome back to Darlington Raceway and what has been for the 21 of Hunter Johnson. Led every single so far. He has yet to be challenged by any of the drivers tonight, but that too of Aaron Maroney on this next restart could be a challenger that we're looking for when it comes to fighting for this race lead. Just a little bit, still short of halfway from the 125 mark that we're seeing to the checkered flag tonight here at Darlington, but nonetheless, still a long race left to go, still a lot left to see on the racetrack and see who will take the checkered flag at the end of tonight's event. Going into turn 3 and 4, they took the 1 to green signal while we were under brakes, so that means the pace truck will line off to pit road. And the 21 of Hunter Johnson, Aaron Mulrooney, the 2 SPG Evo Sim Sports entries of Sartaj Mann, Andy McDowell, row number 2. Fly back out once again, and Hunter Johnson, like he's done every single time. And now the 2 of Aaron Mulrooney has a little fighting to do with the 20 of Andy McDowell.
Yeah, Andy McDowell is strong. He takes the 2nd spot. Furthest up we've seen him all night. He ran pretty well at Iowa Speedway. Behind Blaze McKinney. These guys fouling back side by side down the back stretch. Here comes Kulwicki looking for the 4th spot from the net. Another Evo Simsport SPG Racing entry of Sartaj Mann. But to the outside goes Preston Cope for the top 5.
Preston Cope to the outside. He gets it done. You see a move all the way low. Filing back, that's the 19 of Jackson Hartman looking to get out of Kulwicki. What an interesting night for him last week. It was his debut race. He stayed out on the final green-white checker in that final stint of the race on the old tires. A bold strategy considering the fact that everyone behind him was on the new. Of course, he wasn't able to take the checkered flag, but nonetheless, he put up a great fight with the driver right behind him, and Nick Miller as well as Parker White, who's in front of them. And, you know, Blaze McKinney, of course. So Kulwicki, one of the more interesting drivers that we're talking about tonight, running a Valvoline throwback scheme tonight. So he's been keeping himself in the top 10, so he's kept himself occupied so far. But right now, Hunter Johnson has been the opposite of occupied so far. We haven't seen a challenge for the lead since the drop of the green flag. And you're seeing Andy McDowell, who passed Aaron Mulrooney, though, of course, the 3 right there, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th are SPG and Evo Simsport drivers. That's Sartaj Mann in the 49, Aaron Mulrooney in front of him. Of course, Andy McDowell. 2 of those drivers newly joined members, and Aaron Mulrooney in the middle. There. We have a battle behind them. That's Kulwicki to the outside. Nick Miller goes to the inside, takes the pass easily. There's Brody Garner, Ezekiel Reyes. Contact with Ezekiel Reyes is in the wall. He's got a bit of damage there. Looks like everyone gets out of his way, so it won't be too bad. No caution on the racetrack, but hard hit for the driver, strong early on.
Yeah, and I guess Brody Garner just ran the 04 up into the wall. I don't think the 404 is going to be very happy about that, but he just kind of, I guess he might have not seen him up there, but just kind of ran him out of room up to the top, and 04 got the short end of the stick there.
So hard damage for the 04. We'll see if he dips down pit road to get any of that damage fixed, but so far, a single file through the rest of the field. Looks like he's not going to go down pit road, stay out, unless we have another yellow on the racetrack. Or single file pretty much all the way through. It seems that these drivers have spread out just a little bit, and here comes a driver that we haven't seen all night, but is now peeking into this top 5. That's the 95 of Parker White, and they're running that Delta throwback, a Delta Airlines throwback. He's run Delta Airlines, a sponsor in the past couple of races. He's running that throwback here tonight, paying tribute to that legendary airline, and right to the back bumper of the 47 of Preston Cope. And, you know, he had a strong race at Charlotte, was also close to the victory and couldn't get it done, but still a really good finish for him after the string of bad luck that he's had over the past couple of races in this season. So it's good to see him back up front and trying to make laps as he's trying to get around the 47, but he has yet to do.
Yeah, we saw Parker White really strong, and he was the first car on fresh tires coming down to the green white checkered last week at Charlotte, but it seems like Kulwicki just kind of got into his way, and that allowed the 88 and the 87 to both catch right up to him and kind of stole the win away from him. So looking to end that string of bad luck and not getting the finishes that he wanted, but I believe he finished third that race last week at Charlotte. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, but
yes,
looking to get another solid top 5 finish here at Darlington.
Yeah, a really good finish for the 95. It was his first top 3 of the entire season. You see, passed by the 88 of Nick Miller. A good outside pass for him, and that's what you got to do to make the pass. And we have another pass for what looks to be like 3rd place. That is the 49 Sartaj Mann. He goes to the inside of Aaron Mulrooney, and now comes Preston Cope. And Nick Miller, Parker White will follow. So a little bit of a jam up with these guys back here in this pack. Meanwhile, just a couple of seconds in front is Andy McDowell, who's been slowly trying to chase down the 21 of Hunter Johnson. Are peeking into this top 5 right now. There's Brody Garner, who got into contact. There's more contact with the 95. He lays back. It seems though they'll file single file once again. But Andy McDowell has been trying to run down that 21. He's put up a gap on the rest of these guys.
And we saw these guys get really tight into turn number 3 and 4 right here last lap, and these guys are scrubbing the wall. These guys are getting their Darlington stripes for sure, and we see down the front straight last lap, the 47 tried to push his way up into the high line, and now sitting solid right behind that 2 car. So it got pretty tight a lap ago, but these guys are starting to settle down, but it's certainly not over yet.
Yeah, it's hard battling between all these guys. You mentioned how tight it is between 4, and especially guys running all. You know, you don't have a lot of space when it comes to your car relative to the outside wall. You see contact with Aaron Mulrooney there up to the outside wall. That checked up 47 must be damaged to the nose of that race car. Nick Miller also trying to peek around there. I believe that is Brody Garner in the 10. Yes, it is. And Parker White now in the hard into the wall for the 95. A little contact with Blaze McKinney. Oh, we've seen a bunch of drivers smack the wall. Now we got a caution on the track.
These guys were glued to the wall, as you see. I think that caution involved Peter Kenny in that 35 car. And those guys were almost racing. I don't know, they were racing like they were trying to wreck their own cars there, just slamming the wall almost each time. But we're going to take a look at what that caution was.
That's the 35 of Peter Kenny. Looked to be running by himself on the racetrack. Still damage to that Haribo. I think right here might have been the trigger, and yes it is. Goes around on the back straightaway. And of course right in the middle of the racetrack, that triggers easily. So a yellow once again on lap number 63. Peter Kenny.
Yeah, luckily that was in front of the leaders, because Hunter Johnson was coming out at 2 once he was up against the wall, but got back down the racetrack. So that's probably the end of it for Peter Kenny, unless he has a fast repair.
Of course, they do offer fast repairs in the Bundren Long Race Series. They only offer. You have to be conservative with that as well. Early repairs and get that damage fixed early. But then if you get involved in an incident later in the race, then that could be trouble for you, especially if you've already used your fast repair. But so far, Hunter Johnson leads the field back down pit road. We haven't seen any drivers stay out in terms of these pit cycles, but the leaders all come down pit road all together. Hunter Johnson leads them down. Every single driver down pit road to get damage repair and those 4 fresh tires and Goodyear and the fuel as well. We got a question down in the YouTube by what is your favorite African country? Well,
what the heck?
I haven't visited Africa, so I can't. My favorite country in Africa was, but fun fact, I did do a Spanish project with Equatorial Guinea, because fun fact, they do speak Spanish over there. It's one of the languages in that country. So I guess I would pick that, Charlie. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with probably the easy answer here. I'm gonna have to go with Egypt. They got those beautiful pyramids. It looks like a bunch of desert, but if you look actually at Google Maps, not what the school textbooks show you, but if you look at Google Maps, right beside the pyramids is actually a beautiful, beautiful city. And that's kind of what they don't show. Lots of green in that city. You would think that Egypt is a lot of desert and sand, but if you look closer and you actually look it up, it's actually a very beautiful country. So I don't know why I know that much about Egypt, but I just know that's very beautiful. I would love to visit there someday.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been interested in Cairo. You know, Cairo is in Egypt, so Cairo is one of the main cities up there in Africa, in that country itself. So I believe I'm not sure. I've never seen Cairo like the city. I've never really seen pictures of it. Never really considered looking at it. But you know, I think that's something I should look up after this race is over with, and just check Egypt a little bit. But I don't know why when you mentioned the pyramids, I had like in my mind I was thinking about Despicable Me, where like it deflates, like the pyramids just deflate, and like it was Vector, like all the villains and stuff like that. That was,
yeah.
I don't know why I'm thinking about that, but interesting regardless. We have another question. This is a more. If you were a throwback car, what would you be? That's a good one.
Oh man. Well, if you were to ask me this in 10 years, that at that point it would be a lot older and it would be more acceptable for a throwback. But in 10 years, I would probably say Tony Stewart. He's been my all-time favorite driver. I've been watching him as a kid, and I pretty much grew up with him racing around there and winning championships. I was there for the 2011 championship. That one meant a lot to me. And but if I were to go out there and design a throwback right now, I'd have to go with Alan Kulwicki. He is NASCAR's pretty much greatest underdog, and coming from the unexpected kind of, I don't know. Yeah, Yeah, Alan Kulwicki. That's mine. Sorry, I was stumbling over my words. Go ahead, Kenneth.
Yeah, Alan Kulwicki's a great NASCAR driver, one of the greatest to ever be behind the wheel of a race car, and with 1992 champion at Atlanta, what was one of the toughest battles with a bunch of drivers in the top 3, you know, in the point standings. I think top 5 in 1992. So that's one of the more legendary years in NASCAR. But I think a better follow-up question is, which Tony Stewart scheme would you pick? Would you pick the Home Depot? Would you pick 2011? You know, would you pick the more recent ones?
I'd have to say his early 2000s Pontiac. It was the Home Depot number 20 car, legendary. Joe Gibbs Racing number 20. Yeah, just that Pontiac Home Depot car. That's probably what I would choose. Very good looking car, and I have a lot of memories watching that orange 20 go around the racetrack as a kid. So, well, what about you, Kenneth?
I mean, I've always been in love with Jimmy Johnson's 2009 Cobalt scheme. He ran in COT. I have a fond memory of that scheme. It's not a good memory. It's a memory in which, like, he goes into the wall at Texas 2009 and he gets involved in a wreck. I don't know. And I bought the diecast of that car on eBay. So it was the first purchase on eBay that I've ever made, and it was on that car. But I love that car. It's a beautiful paint scheme. I think if it was later, of course, in the future, like you mentioned, I would definitely hit that car. But if it was now, I think I'd go with. Man, that's the hardest. I think I'd go with something along Dave Blaney, 93.
Oh yeah.
You know, Amco. You know, that's one of the beautiful cars.
Very good.
I think that I would go with that. But we are ready to go green. Hunter Johnson, Andy McDowell, Sartaj Mon, and Aaron Mulrooney. Proximity car surrounded by SPG. We are back green. Darlington, another early start for Hunter Johnson, but not the start maybe wanted. There goes Andy McDowell. He's closing in.
And Andy McDowell has been the closest to that back bumper, you know, on that last run than we've seen anyone else. And I think that he'll be a real challenge for the race lead here and possibly the victory going into turn 3 here. Obviously, Hunter Johnson, we'll see how well these guys go through turns 3 and 4. And Hunter Johnson really good at sticking up that top. He'll pull, I guess, half a tenth down the straightaway to see the back end of that 20 car start to step out. But Hunter Johnson will yet again lead another lap.
Led every single lap tonight, but he had to gap that 20 of Andy McDowell, who was trying to put the pressure bumper, but he's falling back just a little bit off of turn 3 and 4. See a bit of a battle between two Chevrolets and the Ford behind them. Preston Cope, Cole Woody, and Nick Miller. He files back in line. Pressure from Kadarius Tave, and contact between the two. Miller's in the wall. I think more contact, and he has to watch for the rest of the field trying to get around him. Hard damage and more contact with Blaze McKinney. Boy, that's a lot of spots lost, and that is tough considering the fact that he has to get into this top 10 in order to fight for that championship. Currently 14th. That could be a big blow for that 88.
And those are valuable points that just slipped out of Nick Miller's hands. He was running solid in the top 10 and just lost it right there, and he's going to have a lot of ground to make up. He'll have to catch a caution here in order to even attempt to make up that ground, as he's got a lot of damage all over his car. So tough break for him. He needed his points bad.
That is tough for the 88, and I think if he stays in that hole, if he stays where he is, he on a yellow to get that damage fix, because he's not going to go down pit, then he'll go a couple down, and of course that'll dig an even deeper hole for that 88 to try and get into, at least stay in this race and get some points for the most part. But you mentioned valuable points each position you lose. That is big for that 88 of Nick Miller, and if that stays the case over the rest of this race, that means he'll have to fight for a win and valuable points at Las Vegas next week, and that is tough for the 88. But so far, you're looking up front. Proximity driver Hunter Johnson still with the lead. Andy McDowell falling not too far behind. He hasn't fallen back as much as the other drivers have over the green flag run, so good to see for that 20, considering that his car is very fast tonight. Again, if it was last race, if it was a couple days prior to this race happened, you would see a bright neon yellow and blue at the front of the field with both the 20 and the 49. Of course, both of them were former Peak Performance Motorsports members. Now they transition to SPG and Evo SimSport today, so early transition for them, and that's partially why you don't see the throwback cars on those two cars, because they really recently joined the team. They had to keep the logos, and they really didn't have time to make a throwback scheme for tonight's race. But regardless, still a strong run for those two drivers. They're trying to make it for the proximity driver up front.
And we're seeing these guys start to spread out a bit. And we're going to see those gaps start to expand. The current gap for the lead, though, is closest we've seen all race, especially this late into a run. Not super close, but not too far behind, just half a second to that 21 car and the 20. So I feel like if there was anyone who could challenge that 21 car of Hunter Johnson, I think it'll be that 20 car.
And we've seen a handful of drivers cycle around behind Hunter, who's now in 4th. You saw Nick Miller, Ezekiel Reyes. You know, those drivers were trying to fight to that 21, but they weren't able to fell back in the process. Been in some contact. Blaze McKinney and now scored a lap down in 18th. So a rough night for the points leader here tonight. And a couple of drivers also under that race car around, I believe, for a yellow, or at least waiting for that green flag pit stop run to happen so that he can get that damage fixed and hopefully be back in this thing as soon as the race starts to wind down. But here is the 4-car breakaway between a couple of drivers. Blaze McKinney, Trey Shuttlesworth in the 25, who was involved in an incident earlier with Dominic Howe. I believe Peter Kenny was in that as well, in that mix. But right now, Hunter Johnson continuing to grow his lead over the rest of the field. And I mean, I think if he continues to race in this series, I think we might have a new challenge. 7.
And just continuing to grow that lead, we're going to see how these drivers start to adapt to those old tires. And I think Hunter Johnson is just going to pull away with this one. Unless we catch a caution and someone gets to the inside of him on a restart or something, I think this is Hunter Johnson's race. I don't want to jinx him too early, but I'm pretty confident about it. So top 5 looking the same right here. Preston Cope to the we'll round out the top 5. Here comes Brody Garner, who's on fresher tires than all these guys, trying to get past the 47 for the top 5 spot. 47 almost in the wall. Looks like he will clear them down the front straightaway, but no, the 47 will batter back on the outside.
He's holding his ground outside, and that is in turn 3 and 4. But also, as this race is, as we're digging deeper into the race, coming to the end in the checkered flag, we're seeing that sun continuing to drop down ever so slightly with each lap, and we see the lights turn on and the moon rise. And that's where it'll be nighttime racing here at Darlington, and that's where things will change concerning those old tires, concerning the grip, and concerning how these drivers will handle their race cars coming into the rest of the night. You saw the pass with Brody Garner. There it is over the 47 of Preston Cope. Behind them, there's Jackson. There's behind them, there's Jackson Hartman, a Michigan race winner. Not having the night he wants tonight. And currently in 7th, so not too bad, but you know, he's been involved in an incident early on, but he's been able to pick that back up. There's Kulwicki, the 2 Mustangs of Kadarius Tave. He makes the pass easy, a slide job move, and a crossover by the 014 off of turn number 4, and AJ Bain peeking behind them.
That was a very dirt track style move. He just plunged it in the corner, went up to the wall, and then 014 just got right under, and that was a pretty fancy move, and you can do that around here. And oh, the 4 car on the wall. He's going to go around off of the front bumper of Casey Drake. No other cars will be involved. It's just Katarius David went around off of the bumper of Casey Drake, and this is going to be good for Nick Miller, who got damage on that run.
Yeah, if you're Nick Miller, you are praising the racing. There you around in turn 1 and 2 was battling with the 097 of AJ Payne. We'll take a look there. Goes into the wall, gets involved. Another driver, that's the Gatorade machine, also involved. Ezekiel Reyes, very close for that 04, but he's not involved. That's the 013 who got a piece of that. Kadarius Tave goes around on the racetrack. Hard damage to the rear side of that race car. And we are under caution once again. And the field stacks up on lap number 82 with just 43 laps remaining. On board with Ezekiel Reyes. Let's see what he saw in turn 1 and 2.
And that 4 car just got so close to clipping him. That was a really close call for that 04 car. But got away unscathed once again.
And meanwhile, everyone down pit road, you see Nick Miller stays out. Interesting call by him considering he has damage, but everyone down. All the leaders here, Hunter Johnson, Andy McDowell, the 49 of Sartaj Mon. Everyone pretty much behind them. Brody Garner also taking down pit road. They'll take the 4 fresh tires and the fuel and be good for what looks to be like the end of this race of the way. So I was expecting to see a green flag throughout that little run there, but I guess the caution came out, just to splice that in the middle, and now that puts everybody on the same strategy once again. Nick Miller staying out, interesting call. I think he just did that just to lead that lap, get some extra points considering his situation and what he's got to do right now, and I think he'll just dive down pit road, get that damage fixed, and try to be back in this one as soon as possible.
He's going to come down here. He might have a faster pair left, I think, unless he used it earlier, but I think he kind of sat in pit road earlier to try to repair that right side damage that he got from scraping the wall. We'll see if he still has that faster pair once he stops in his pit stall here, but Hunter Johnson will assume the race lead on lap number 83, and about 40, just under 40 laps, just over 40 more laps of racing to go here. We passed halfway at lap 62, so yeah, it's going to be a fight to the end here. We'll see if Nick Miller has that faster car. I don't think so. We didn't see that car instantly jump to a clean Camaro, so I think he's just going to use that time to try to repair it.
Yeah, there he goes, and he spent a little extra time on pit road, trying to get that early damage fixed when he hit the outside. It wasn't too much damage, but it cost him time. As you see now, he's getting the damage repaired. I don't think the fast repair is being enabled this time around. You see the damage on the back bumper there, that dark matter Chevrolet Camaro. But if you look to the front, that's flawless, no dents on that race car. He hasn't even made contact with the wall, I don't think. So he's been pretty much perfect throughout this entire race. And, Hunter Johnson has been just phenomenal in his debut. To win in your debut, that would be interesting. And of course, he won't be in the battle for the championship. It's something for these drivers to take note of over Hunter Johnson, and it's going to be interesting to see how this goes into the final stint of the race. But we're just going to remind you under yellow that you a KBRN sponsored action on Max Speed TV. It's the IceCar KBRN Street Stock Tour. That'll be Max Speed TV Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. The Street Stocks go over to Eldor to sling the dirt a little bit. So KBRN sponsoring that series. So we have...
What in the world? Go ahead.
And we have the support on that. And so if you want to tune in to Racing Action sponsored by KBRN, you can do that. KBRN Street Stock Tour, Wednesday, 9 p.m. on Max Speed TV. But on the K Bueno Racing Network, tomorrow night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, will be the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series live from the Paperclip at Martinsville Speedway. That'll be tomorrow. Interesting race there as well, and early in the season for them. Long season for LWRC, so they're keeping themselves up to date with Martinsville. That's going to be a lot of fun. 125 laps at that track, I believe, or maybe just a little more. Correct me if I'm wrong. Probably a long race over there at Martinsville, considering how short it is. So we're approaching 40 laps remaining in this race here at Darlington. You see Hunter Johnson still leading the field, and 2 Evo SimSport SPG cars behind him. Then you see Jackson Hartman, Preston Cope, rounding out those other couple of rows. Ezekiel Reyes, Aaron, AJ Bain, Brody Garner, Parker White, who got into the wall early, and you see the 25 of Trey Shuttlesworth. So not much to talk about under this yellow flag. See if a long run really affects the ending of this. So far, it's been dominance. We haven't really seen a challenger. I really want to see coming into this next restart. I really want to see a battle for the lead. We'll just see what happens.
Just 40 laps at the 86 lap mark. Just 40 laps of racing left to go here. But still a long way to go for these guys. It's going to be a tough 40 laps for these guys. And green flag is out once again. Hunter Johnson leads them back to 3 Evo SimSport. The 2 Evo SimSport cars of Andy McDowell and Sarge Trustman sliding in second and third. In the car we haven't seen all race, Jackson Hartman into the top 5.
Jackson Hartman was your winner at Michigan. Fighting for the points as well. A bunch of drivers getting tires early on, but to the back bumper of the race leader is Andy McDowell. We'll see if he's able to capitalize on that time around. A little bit of a gap into turn 3 and 4 down the front straightaway. You see a bunch of battles behind Ezekiel Reyes, Parker White, Preston Cope once again under fire. So a bunch of drivers battling there, and that 47 has had a lot to deal with the cars behind it.
Yeah, definitely. And that 47 has maintained his position pretty well. A lot of guys in the wall back there. That's the 014 of Kulwicki, Blaze McKinney all the way down, almost to the inside wall. If these guys will keep it straight, they'll go back racing here, just like as if nothing happened. But still up front, Hunter Johnson with another lead.
Still leading into turn number 1 and 2. And you see almost contact between the two of Aaron Mulrooney, and remain relatively clean, and everyone going single file as they were right now. A car on the wall, that's Peter Kenny. Not sure if he went around the racetrack, whether that was... I'm not sure. I think he just kept that car straight and just hit the wall, so he'll be okay. No caution on the racetrack. You see him on the apron. Now going down pit road, a hard hit to that right side of that Toyota Camry. And he hits the pit barrels on the way. But he's under the apron, so no yellow there on that end. We won't get a yellow from that. But Hunter Johnson still in command. Andy McDowell behind him. Sartaj Mon. You see a battle now. Aaron Mulrooney. And the 47 as they come off the turn number 2.
Yeah, Preston Cope has really been the man of consistency all race. He's just hanging out just at the 5th spot. I really can't remember him being anywhere else than the 5th spot. So he's working hard fending off that number 2 car, but also Brody Garner trying to get past Parker White there. We saw him side by side a lap ago, but still behind them, Blaze McKinney, who we really haven't seen crack the top 5 or even the top 10.
Aaron Mulrooney had that hit in the wall.
Blaze McKinney, sorry.
Yeah, Blaze McKinney had currently 12th right now, so he was down a couple of just about 25 laps ago, but now he's been able to pick it up, so into this top 10. Currently behind Brody Garner, who's now trying to look to the inside of Parker White. Can't really get it done there, so he'll fly back single file. But Blaze McKinney, early strong run, but then he was involved in those incidents, and that really didn't help his case. You see that's Aaron Mulrooney with damage.
And Aaron Mulrooney down at the apron. We're going to get a quick replay of what happened there. Pushing Preston up down the front straightaway. Preston has been blocking him the past couple laps, and I guess he's just done with it. He puts him in the wall. Damage all over that 2 car, and he's down on the apron slowing. And Peppers could be flagging for me, but he's still out on the racetrack. Currently listed 16th, so that's a big drop in positions for him.
Wow, Aaron Mulrooney, a contact with the 47 of Preston Cope, and now that allows to go into this top 4. He's now trying to find 3rd from that 49 of Sartaj Mon. He's trying to gain time, and slowly he's been able to keep up with him, and they've put the gap on the 47 of Preston Cope, who has the damage now from getting his Darlington stripe once again with Aaron Mulrooney. So I'm not sure whether that'll affect his performance, but now he's into the clutches for Ezekiel Reyes, Brody Garner, now Blaze McKinney. Those drivers are slowly creeping up to that 47. So he said he was consistency all day, but now that mistake might cost him a couple spots.
And we saw Brody Garner tried to make a move down to the inside of Ezekiel Reyes, but just slipped up, and that allowed the 04 and Blaze McKinney in the 87 car to get by him. So the 04 making up a bit of ground, and so is the 87 behind them. Almost made contact with that outside wall. Same with the 95. But here comes the 87 down to the inside. That's for the 6th position.
Slowly getting into this top 10 and possibly the top 5, trying to get Preston Cope. They're both good friends out. And, you know, they treat each other with a lot of respect on the racetrack. Well, we've seen a lot of drivers get in turn number 2. And I think that's been the trouble spot so far for most of the drivers in the field. You have another car in the wall, 95. Parker White won't be too much of an issue, though. He stays where he is right now. And now the battle persists with Preston Cope. Down to the inside goes Brody Garner. Easily takes that spot. Now the 04 trying to peek in.
And I think that was another instance where the 10 car just kind of ran that person out of room. And same person as last time, the 04 car And once again, you gave him that damage, and now that airforce is going to fall back pretty hard. So I think that 10 car is not making a lot of friends out here tonight on the racetrack.
Boy, it has been tough for a bunch of these drivers to get around that outside wall. Now the 47 can Parker White, AJ Bain, now Casey Drake. Look, that 47, ever since he hit that wall with Aaron Mulrooney, it has not been easy. For that 47, you see Nick Miller also trying to gain spots. Trey Shuttlesworth involved with Dominic Howe early in the race. He's trying to get back up and try to muster something out of tonight in his first race here in the Bundren Lawn Care Series. But if you look all the way up front, couple seconds gap first and second with Hunter Johnson over Andy McDowell. Still a clean race car in that number 21, and it stayed that way the entire time. As we come off of turn 3 and 4. Once again, we approach lap number 100. We will approach 26 laps remaining in this race at Darlington. It has not looked contested, but a caution could come out at any time. Right now, it's Hunter Johnson.
Yeah, just an absolute dominating performance here. And Andy McDowell, a second and a half behind him. Sartaj Mann, a second, 1.2 seconds behind Andy McDowell, his teammate. Right behind him, Jackson Hartman, a good showing for him tonight. Winner of Michigan, and another good top 5 performance for him as well. Blaze McKinney with a good rebound. Both of those guys are tapping the wall. Yeah, Blaze McKinney in the top 5. Looks like Jackson Hartman's going to be kind and go low and let him have that 4th spot. So Blaze McKinney showing up late in the race here. And into the wall.
Oh boy, as soon as he said that, into the wall goes Blaze. Damage though, he seems to be able to keep it straight. And also when the wall goes Brody Garner, he tags off the outside wall, and he's trying to pick himself back up again. And I was just about to mention, as we're through this long green flag run, it's a good opportunity to go through the field, starting with the driver in first right now. Proximity driver Hunter Johnson, first start here in the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series, but so far it has been flawless. The best debut anyone could have on the racetrack. Currently first, fastest lap of a 27.734. He's led every single lap tonight, apart from just 2, which I think we're just under the caution flag with Nick Miller staying out. So he stayed and got those laps. But so far, it has been pretty much 99% over the laps led so far. Still in first. He's looking for his first win tonight.
Currently sitting in second is that 20 car Vanny McDowell. We've seen him race with us a few times. I believe this is his start. He's made a couple starts with us this season. Currently sitting second. Started 7th. Just sitting solid right in front of his Evo SimSport SPG Racing team. And we're going to go ahead and talk about him. Sir Kelly sitting in 3rd place. Sartaj Mann, a contender for races like Iowa. He's raced with us a couple of times this season, piloting that Toyota Camry.
Back down to 4th, you'll find the 87 of Blaze McKinney. Just at the top of the show in the pre-race interview, said a win for his uncle, driving his uncle's car at a throwback scheme. And so far, he's been able to pick himself up from the hole that he had early in the race. Currently in 4th, just inside the top 5, and slowly making his run around the racetrack. Quietly but effectively passing a bunch of cars to do so, and I think he's catching up to these Evo SimSport guys in front of him. We got a caution on the racetrack. Just as that happens, we have a car around, and it's Nick Miller.
And this is once again going to hurt him, as he needs these points a lot coming towards the playoffs here. And we're going to go ahead and get a replay of what this was here. Might have just gotten to the outside wall on his own. Could have turn number 2. We'll see. Yeah, just didn't get to the bottom of the racetrack and went up into the outside wall. Didn't hit the inside wall though. Quickly saved his race car, but once again more side damage to that car. So this changes everything. We're gonna restart with about 15 laps to go here. All these guys are gonna be on new tires. Yeah, that's if they go down pit road.
Yeah, and I'm sure those guys will want those fresh tires to get the best run. You saw Nick Miller get into the outside wall of turn 2. That wall has not been forgiving to any of these drivers, and it to do so with Nick Miller. Another shot to his run at the championship. That is tough for that 88 of Nick Miller. Luckily, he not shown up, so he might be able to gain something off of that, but right now it is good. Currently 15th, and with that wreck, he'll possibly fall even more with the damage he has to fix. But right now, Hunter Johnson and the rest of the field goes onto pit road. Looks to be no one staying out apart from some lap cars there. That's Brady Wheeleman out on the racetrack. But everyone down pit road. Once again, Hunter Johnson, Andy McDowell, Sartaj Mon, Blaze McMinn among the top 5. Brody Garner as in there as well. Ezekiel Reyes making his stop in the second box. We'll see what these drivers do and how these drivers line up. And we see anyone spend a little more time than they do. We'll see if anybody loses spots. Here's the race off pit road. Easy for Hunter Johnson once again on the first pit box. Andy McDowell, Sartaj Mon, Blaze McKinney, Jackson Hartman. There's Brody Garner, Ezekiel Reyes, AJ Bain, Casey Drake. The final one is Parker White. A couple drivers still staying on pit road. Those the 88, and he gets his faster pair.
Yeah.
Late in the race.
I think earlier in the race when he went into the pit stall, I think he was just saving that faster pair, and that's a good strategy here, because if you use that faster pair like before halfway in the race and you get wrecked out, you have nothing left. So you know, especially with a race that could be more valuable to his playoff run. Yeah, I think that was a good call to use his faster pair late in the race, but now he's got no cushion. So if he wrecks, he's done.
Yeah, he really has to give it his all right now. So I didn't really expect that to happen, but now that he has that allows him to gain the spots that he's lost over the course of that run with the damage that he has, of course spinning on the racetrack, losing more spots in the process. But that could be a saver for Nick Miller to stay within where he is in the points and possibly gain some spots going into next week at Las Vegas. And speaking of Las Vegas, we head to the Sin City next week for the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series. That's the final race of the regular season, and after that race we decide the top 10 will fight for a 2020 championship in this series. So be sure to tune in for that one. That's going to be one of the more compelling races we have this season, with the storyline of people out of the points and people trying to stay in the top 10. So, and especially with drivers not showing up here tonight, some notable drivers. JJ Hill is not here, Grayson Trexler not here as well, Ryan Potter not in the field, neither is Curtis Granger. Those drivers will fall out dramatically in the point standings, and that could really shoot their chance of trying to get into the championship run down. So be sure to tune in, and next Monday, that'll be 9 p.m. Eastern on the K Bueno Racing Network. I'm very excited for that. You are, Charlie, and considering how tense that is with the top 15, and you know, those drivers eager to get in that top 10 fight for a playoffs, and especially going into the playoffs, you know, you have that sense of anxiety. You know, you finally get to the end of the regular season, and if you're in the playoffs, you really have to start thinking ahead. And much like the 87 of Blaze McKinney, he has such a big lead in first place right now that he told us in the pre-race interview, he said that he wants to try and think about the playoffs and really plan for the playoffs, and not really take this race as heavily as he's done when early in the season when he was winning those races and stacking up his points lead. So, you know, drivers like him and drivers like, you know, a couple drivers back, you know, Kelan Belsha also in there as well, Glenn Bundren also, you know, you're looking at a bunch of drivers that are possibly could fall out of this top 10, and it's pretty tight back there with those guys.
Yeah, next week is going to be a fun one for sure. I love Vegas as from a driver's standpoint and from a spectator standpoint. That track has a lot of fun to race around. I've had a lot of good races there. If you know iRacing, if you know the NIS NASCAR iRacing series, that's where I got my first ever NIS win. So I know that track pretty well, and I love racing it. I love watching races at it, and that's going to be a lot of fun for sure.
And we also had a preview of what the Cup racing and the Cup cars will look like at that. The LWRC NASCAR Cup Series took a trip there in the second race of the season. And Blaze McKinney was also a driver in that race, fun fact. So he got a little bit of experience at Las Vegas, you know, and those drivers, you saw what could really with those Cup cars at a track like Las Vegas. So that's going to be a lot of fun, combining with the point standing shakeup. But as we approach just 15 laps to go in this race, Francisco asked in the Ask KBRN chat and the YouTube, it's the 15 to go picks. What we got right now, Charlie?
You can probably, I don't even need to say it. You can probably guess mine, but I'll say it anyways. I think that 21 car, unless the 20 car can get clear of him in this restart, I think this 21 car is going to pull away and get it.
All right, well, we got that pick. I think Nick Miller might be 5. So it's interesting to see how that will work. But we approach turn 4. Pace truck is off. Green flag is back out on what could be the final stint of the evening.
Another good jump for that 21 car of Hunter Johnson. Those cars filing back. We see how Blaze McKinney try to make a move back to the inside on the front straightaway, but looking down the back straightaway, we'll see how Charles Man can block this run. But Blaze McKinney, a hungry driver, but here comes Nick Miller up into the 6th spot past Jackson Hartman for it.
Bunch of drivers fanning out, and that includes the 88 who had. And we have another battle right now. That's Blaze McKinney to the bottom of the 49, trying to get the pass done in turn. Still hasn't been able to do so yet. That run on the high side, especially if you're getting pinched all the way to down into the bottom, not too much room, and into the wall. Contact between the two. They continue to door side by side. They're 4 wide almost going into turn 3.
They are 3 wide in the corner. I don't think that's going to work out. The 19 into the wall. The 49 there as well. And around goes the 88 hard into the outside wall. That's going to be detrimental to his playoff run as his race is over.
It looked optimistic for that 88 once he got that faster pair, but as soon as they checked up and jammed up in front, now that is pretty much the end for Nick Miller tonight at Darlington. We'll take a replay, see what happened on the racetrack. It all started with the 49 of Sartaj Maan and the 87 of Blaze McKinney. They're into the wall. They both make contact, dooring, and then you see all the drivers, including Nick Miller, trying to take advantage. Going into turn 3, that does not look good.
And I think Blaze McKinney just washed up there, and dang, that sent the 88 car head on into the inside wall. And that pretty much started out of turn 2. It looks like we'll go on board with the 49 of Sartaj Maan. Looks like Blaze McKinney just got to us inside. This is coming to that lap in which the crash happened. And Blaze McKinney right now is at the inside of him at this point. I think he might have just ran him out of room. Again, that corner out of turn 2 is so tight, and bam, bam, banging all the way down the racetrack.
Boy, that was tough to watch. That onboard camera was brought to you by EO Media, and there it goes into the wall. 3rd all night with his fellow teammate in front of him. Now his night is practically over unless he goes down pit road, try to fix. But for that 88, it is pretty much sealed for that number 88 Chevrolet Camaro Nick Miller. He's gonna have to try and get something done at Las Vegas next week to try and get into the top 10 and the playoffs this year. So heartbreak for that 88, but currently that puts Brody Garner into 3rd place, and Blaze McKinney with that damage, banging door to door all the way down the back straightaway. He's into what looks to be 4th right now. There's Aaron Marut, who had a little bit of damage colliding with Preston Cope. He still hasn't gotten it fixed, but he's been able to stay out enough to reach into the top 5. And of course the 49 with damage to that race car after hitting the outside wall and hitting the 80. That'll be interesting to see if he goes down pit road, gets that damage fixed. So just about 10 laps remaining in this. Apart from just a handful, you see Nick Miller back on the racetrack trying to get what he can at this point. You know, that faster pair, you know, when you get that faster, you feel unstoppable. You know, you feel like, okay, I got a fresh new start, got a clean slate, I should say. And, you know, you have to really, you know, you feel good about it because you don't have the wear, and once you don't have that damage, the car, especially if you're fast on the racetrack, you know, you have to, you know, you have to try and carve yourself through the field, and sometimes that could be a product of that. You put yourself, you know, try to get to position, and then you end up in the wrong place at the wrong time, and then that could put you in the situation that the 88 is in right now.
Yeah, it's just tough. Nick Miller has got his work pretty much cut out for him at Las Vegas next week if he wants to try to make it, and I think he'll have a pretty good shot. He's just sitting in 14th place. Kela Hankins is not going to be able to make the rest of the season for he is a family emergency in Florida. So he's currently sitting, I believe, let me check here, let me bring up the board really quick. He's currently sitting 5th on the board. He's not going to be able to make it into the chase. Grayson Trex are also not going to run with the rest of the season. So that's 2 spots. So I think mathematically, if we eliminate those 2, Nick Miller will be up to 12th in points coming into this race. So I think if he just has a solid race, stays out of trouble, maintains a good pace and finish, I think that he'll be able to make it in. But it's kind of a lot to ask for on the iRacing service. Also, as you see, the 2 car banged up as well. That's Marut. He's going to be kind of off pace when we get back going here.
We got another question down by Mike once again. Who asks us what our favorite African country was. He's asking.
Cool. Yep. And I believe we might get the running green mark here. Yes, we will. So we're going to be going green at lap 118. That's going to give us about 9 or 8, 7, I don't know. You do the math, Ken. I think that'll give us 8 laps of green flag racing until the end here. And another caution is definitely not out of the picture, but this field is really shaken up since we started this race. But the one thing that stayed stagnant is that leader, Hunter Johnson. He's going to lead us back and hopefully seal the deal here. Led most of the laps, led about 115 total here. Let me bring up the chart for sure. That's not Hunter Johnson. Hunter Johnson, yep, 115. All but 2 laps here looking to seal the deal.
Just to note that now 17 cars, or I believe 17, 18 cars on the lead right now. And we checked that last time when Blaze Mckinney was 18. 17 drivers, I believe it's shrink down to just about 16 or 17. So we'll just see. But here is the battle for what could be the race. Still yet to be challenged. He would step on the gas pedal one more time. We are green. A couple of laps left to go here at Darlington.
Yet another good jump for that 21 car, but the 20 car is not done yet. He is as close as he's been all race. Of course, that was a restart, but he's going to be aggressive here. He's going to lick the stamp and send it if he gets to the inside of that 21 car, backing off into turn number 3. Hunter Johnson has the lead out right now. Brody Garner currently sitting in 4th, and Casey Drake in 4th right now.
Yeah, Casey Drake had to get around some wrecks. He's gotten damage from there, but he's been able to pick himself back up to 4th, considering the amount getting taken out and being involved in wrecks and getting into the wall. But Andy McDowell, this has been some of the closest he's been to the front and to that race lead, and he still has yet to capitalize on it. You see Aaron Maroney leading this pack of drivers. Blaze Mckinney, Jackson Hartman, AJ Bain, Cole Woody, bunch of drivers stacked up together, and there goes the 87 to the bottom. And Ezekiel Reyes trying to work back to the top 5. He could be catching on that 013 pretty soon.
Yeah, good rebound for that old car. He got some damage earlier. It looks like he got it all fixed. He might have used his fast repair on that yellow flag there, but Maroney finally got past that 2 car. 2 car's a bit slow there with that front end damage. I think he might be down some RPMs there. But also Preston Cope looking to make up some ground. But back up front, Hunter Johnson, just 5 laps to go for that number 21 Proximity Ford Mustang. And he is looking to take home his first Budget Lawn Care Series victory in his first start. He'll go 1-1 if he can just seal the deal and not catch a yellow. And a dominating performance for him. But here comes Ezekiel Reyes looking for the 4th spot.
5 laps left for Hunter Johnson to take his first win in his debut. Full of that 04 right now. The 04 gonna try to get as much as he can through these last couple of laps. Now 4 laps to go for Hunter Johnson. Andy McDowell looking to the back bumper of that 21, but he has yet to been able anything so far. He's gotten close on the restarts, but he hasn't been able to get close over the course. 21 has just been able to pull away, just like the 013 there, who got just clear of that 04. So he's not under pressure anymore. But 3 laps remaining. Brody Garner down in 3rd. They're stacking up. You see Blaze Mckinney a couple spots back, and here's Andy McDowell in 2nd. He's been in 2nd for a good majority of this race. Started to set. He's been really good at this nighttime setting over the course of this race, and once the sun started to go down and the moon started to rise and the lights started to turn on, he was one of those drivers to stay up there and be consistent, much like Sartaj Man, who was involved in an incident, but he's staying consistent. But Hunter Johnson, sun or night, he is still consistent. 2 laps to go for the 21.
Driving for Proximity Racing, Hunter Johnson competed in the Landing Castle Hot Lap Challenge, which was the Cup cars at Darlington. He made it to the final round, did not win the $10,000 cash prize, but certainly knows his way around here as he is carving that top every single lap. I don't think there is a sliver of, or a scratch on the right side of that 21 machine. 1 lap to go here at Darlington for Hunter Johnson. Dominates this race, dominates a whole bunch of other series. Once you hear that name, or once you see that name connect to the session, you know that you're in for a treat. And that guy up front driving that 21 car is most likely going to pull away with a win here. Into turn 3 for the final time.
Back down 3 and 4 for the final time to the out of the race. Flawless night for Hunter. A debut race, a debut win for that 21 proximity race. Hunter Johnson, first race win of the season. He gets it done in the throwback race here at Darlington. Andy McDowell finishes just short of the race win. Second, Brody Garner rallies back to a top 3 finish. Blaze McKinney finishes 4th, just inside the top 5. Casey Drake also as well. Ezekiel Reyes, top 5, excuse me. Ezekiel Reyes finishes the top 5. Casey 4. But Hunter Johnson, first race, first win. Boy, has not been surprising. Front dominating races, and it's been the case here in the Bundren Lawn Care Series. Burning it down the front straightaway. He'll do it in front of the virtual fans. Right there, burning it down in that Ford Mustang. A well-deserved win for Proximity Racing and the 21 of Hunter Johnson.
He's had a lot of practice doing those burnouts, and we've seen it. I've seen it a bunch of times in my iRacing career. I've raced him a lot in league races such as IceCar, and man, I don't know how he does it. That guy is just insane. He's like an alien here. So with that being said and done, the race is finished on track, but our post-race festivities are not over yet. We're going to go ahead and look at the results really quick. We're going to go ahead and go to commercial break. Then we're going to get an interview for with your top 5. So we're going to go ahead and look at the results here. Hunter Johnson in his first start goes 1 for 1 in that 21 Proximity Racing Ford Mustang. Finishes first here at Darlington. Andy McDowell driving for Evo Simsport and SPG Racing. Toyota Camry finishes second. Brody Garner and that number 10 Dogecoin car finishes third. Casey Drake and that another Toyota Camry finishes fourth. Rounding out your top 5 is Ezekiel Reyes in 5th place. Blaze McKinney finishes 6th place, just outside the top 5. I think that might have been his worst finish at a track that's not Daytona. So, but still a solid finish for him. Preston Cope showed up in his Jeff Gordon Pepsi throwback, finishes 7th. Kulwicki in that 014 car 8th. Jackson Hartman, winner at Michigan, finishes 9th place. And Trey Shuttlesworth, who we really haven't seen in the top 10 all race, scores a top 10 finish.
Right outside the top 10 was a driver that was involved in a couple of incidents late in the running. That's Kadarius Tave. He rallies back to 11th. Aaron Mulrooney with the damage after contact with Preston Cope rounds out 12th. AJ Bain 13th. Parker White, after hitting the wall, has really not reached from there. He finishes 14th. Sartaj Man, after a top 3 run the entire of that second half of the race, he finishes 15th. Nick Miller finishes just a lap down, and a lot of work to do for that 88 next week at Las Vegas. Then goes Brady Wheeleman, Carl Faust, Peter Kenny, 42 laps down. Dominic Howe rounds out the top 20, 79 laps down.
And outside your top 20, Mitch Hobbs in an 87-89 car finishes 24th. Connor Brandon driving for Proximity Racing, same team as your winner tonight, finishes 22nd. Dylan Basin, another early exit, finishes 23rd. Ruben Caceres 24th. Hunter Rups 25th, and a shocking early exit. Kelan Belsha will earn 1 point today. Currently locked into the play, or not locked into the playoffs, but currently sitting in the playoff field as of right now. We'll round out your field of 26 cars. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and slide ourselves aside for commercial break, and we'll be back to interview your top 5, which is Hunter Johnson, Andy McDowell, Brody Garner, Casey Drake, and Ezekiel Reyes. We'll be back here with more post-race festivities. You're watching the K Bueno Racing Network.
Welcome back to the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care from Darlington Raceway. Hunter Johnson on your screen is your race winner. His debut race, he takes the victory here tonight. And we're going to start our KBRN post-race coverage presented by SDC. We'll start with the post-race interviews with your race winner, Hunter Johnson. And first of all, Hunter, welcome to the KBRN booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Hunter, you made your debut here tonight, and what a way to do so. You cap it off with a race win here tonight at Darlington. Tell us how that race went for you, considering the fact that you really didn't have much of a challenge back there.
I was kind of surprised that from practice to the race, it went from like maybe afternoon to evening, and then so I kind of had to learn how the car handled on the first couple laps, first couple restarts we had, but then eventually I got it figured out. Yeah, I mean I was kind of struggling in turn 3 and 4 as the run went on. But I mean, by the time I was starting to struggle, I would already have like maybe a second or two gap over the person in second. So it just kind of allowed me to experiment different lines without sacrificing too much. So overall, it was a really solid race, and had a lot of fun.
Well, on those restarts, you really had a mirror full of those SPG and Evo SimSport drivers. Did you have any concern with those drivers behind you? I know Andy Mckinney put up a good fight on those restarts. I know Sartaj Man was also there as well. Was there any kind of concern going through those restarts with those guys behind you?
I just try to make sure to manage, what lines I was running, not to, give them too much. But yeah, I mean, you don't want to sleep on them on the restarts. You always want to try and stay on your toes. So I mean, as long as you can stay on top of that, it was pretty manageable. So yeah.
All right, Hunter, we're a debut race and a debut win for you here tonight in the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series. Before we let you go to celebrate your victory, you got any sponsors or teams you want to thank for making tonight happen?
Yeah, I gotta thank you guys for putting on the broadcast, and Proximity Racing for everything they do. Oh, and quick little PSA here. Proximity Racing's looking for a setup builder to help out with our organization, and we're also looking for drivers that feel like they have potential and that they want to be part of our organization. So if you're interested, just hit me up, I guess. You have me on Discord or whatever. Yeah.
All right, Hunter. Well, we'll let you celebrate your victory here tonight in the Bundren Series. We hope to see you in the next coming weeks. I know you put on a show, and you really put it out there in front of some of the best drivers in this series. So we hope to see you in the next coming weeks, and we wish you the best of luck.
All right, thank you.
Hunter Johnson out of the booth finishes his first race in first place. So looks like we'll get back to second place for the SP of Andy McDowell. He finished his second. The interview is there with Charlie.
Jack Inman in the booth on number 20 car driving for SPG Evo SimSport Racing. Finished second. Andy, you got a copy with us?
Oh, hey.
Well, Andy, your car was pretty strong all night, but I guess it just wasn't enough to get by the 21 of Hunter Johnson. Do you think you could have done anything differently to catch him, or was he just too quick?
Nope, he was just way quicker than me. I was kind of surprised I was even that fast. I usually suck at Darlington, but today's run was probably like the best run I've ever had at Darlington. Yeah.
Yeah, and those restarts really helped you, and your teammate Sartaj Man really closed the gap on him. Do you think, coming towards the end of the race when we had those cautions, do you think that on the restart you maybe could have put a bumper to his inside or outside, or maybe stuck a nose there and maybe took the lead away him, or he was just pretty strong all night? What do you think?
Well, actually, we were in the call together, so he told me when we were going, so it would be cheap if I just, stuck my foot in it and went with a hole when he's telling me when he's going. So, as curiosity, I just backed off and just stayed on his bumper, and try pass him actually instead of like on a restart when he's telling me when he's going.
All right, well, Andy, we appreciate you coming out here racing with us. Another solid finish for you. But before we let you go, do you have any teams or sponsors that you want to thank?
Yeah, SPG, Evo, and you guys, I guess. About it.
All right, Andy, we hope to see you coming up in the next upcoming weeks here in the Bundren Lawn Care Series, and we wish you the best of luck.
All right, thank you.
That was Andy McDowell driving for Evo Simsport SPG Alliance, and that'll end our second place interview. Down track side is Kenneth Bueno with Brody Garner, who finished third place tonight.
It looks to be like Brody Garner isn't in the waiting room.
Oh boy.
We'll skip back to fourth place, where the 013 of Casey Drake finds himself tonight. Interesting run for him. He stayed in the back and kind of got out of the trouble somewhat and finishes in the top 5 for this one. Casey Drake, welcome to the KBRN booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, yes, you.
All right, Casey. Well, you had one of the more interesting ones here tonight at Darlington. You kind of hanged in the back, kind of running your own race, hitting your own marks. What really went down for you there to capture this 4th place finish tonight?
Just like the big wreck with I think it was 10 laps to go. Damaged a lot of the front runners, and I just was in the right position to make some moves around some of the damaged cars, and just got lucky to get up to 4th.
Well, you had a little bit of a battle to do so there. I saw Ezekiel Reyes. I know Blaze McKinney was in the picture. I know you had caught up to Brody Garner at one point, and I think you were around Preston Cope at some point in the race. How did that work around those drivers? Was there really space or maybe lack of space at this track, especially, fighting with those guys?
Yeah, kind of both. Me and Brody were kind of working together and in a voice call and just trying to give each other room and not hold each other up too much. And I think it worked out in the end as we got 3rd and 4th, so pretty good results for us. So it was a pretty fun race too.
All right, Casey. Well, you finished your first top 5 here this season. And before we let you go, you got any sponsors or teams you want to thank for making tonight happen?
No, not really.
All right. Well, short and sweet for Casey Drake. You finished 4th. A great finish for you, and we hope to see you in the next coming weeks. And of course, we wish you the best of luck going forward.
Yep, thank you.
Casey Drake out of the booth. He finishes in the top 4, and we'll look to the top 5. Well, you'll find Ezekiel Reyes finished 3rd at Homestead. Finishes top 5 tonight. He's got the interview with Charlie.
Will interview me, type 3 and sorry.
Well, Zeke, I wasn't expecting you to get dragged into the booth this quickly. Thanks, Kenneth. But Zeke, finished top 5 here. We saw you fell victim to the walls of Darlington early on, and I got that damage repaired. How did that really propel you to a 5th place finish?
Saved my fast repair. I took it with I think 25 to go. I hit the wall so many times, and I went from a 0x to a 10x within a span of, 10 laps. But I really didn't know what was going through my mind during that stint, because I was laughing my ass off as Miller and Hunter were throwing jokes in the voice chat and stuff like that. But yeah, today was okay. It's my first race back, and I don't know the last time I've actually raced on the official, not really official, but on an actual oval. I wouldn't count the Saturday iSky race as really a race since it's a super speedway, but I had to get into the hang of things and flung it with 16-to-1 ratio, and somehow I got a 5th off of it.
Yeah, and Darlington has a lot less race room than a lot of other cars, and we saw, within the 10 laps to go, we saw 2 cautions there, cars just beating and banging up against each other. Do you think that this was, I don't really know the question I'm asking here. I don't know. How did those last 10 laps go for you? Because we saw those 2 cautions get thrown out, and I think you went from kind of towards the back and propelled to a 5th place finish. Do you think those cautions really helped you out?
Sort of, kind of. They were 50-50. It depends on where you're restarting. If you're on the outside, you're sort of stuck in a hole in 1 and 2. But if you're on the bottom, you could hold it very nicely and get a nice run off of 2. Shoot yourself into 3, which really singles out coming into that corner. It funnels out. You have to get it right against that safer barrier, or else you're trapped right against that dotted line. But yeah, it really depends on where you're restarting and how those cautions wanted to play themselves out. Luckily, we didn't get a green-white checkered there at the end, which I thought we would, based on how the race was going. And yeah, but just the last 10 laps, I wouldn't say it played out perfectly. We finished out 5th, but I wish we could have finished up front. But I'm probably being a bit optimistic based on I ran today.
All right, well, Zeke, a good finish for you. Finished second at Homestead, finished 5th tonight. So we appreciate you coming out here running with us in the Bundren Lawn Care Series. And we hope to see you next week, last race before the playoffs at Las Vegas. But until then, before we let you go, do you have any sponsors or teams that you want to thank?
Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and thank Hunter Johnson, Nick Miller, and Andy McDowell for, supporting, being in the booth. I mean, not in the booth. I don't even know what the heck I'm saying, but in the voice chat. Hunter especially, he was really helping with restarts and counting down, even though I'm a bit dyslexic and I don't know what one meant. But I got a lot of bad restarts either way, but in the end, it all turned out okay. And fortunately, Miller was the outcast of that because he wrecked out. But good day for our team, for Keyboy Racing, and for Proximity, I guess, and SPG. Sort of a combined team effort and such. And we'll move on to next week, and hopefully work doesn't interfere, and I could go ahead and maybe be one of those playoff contenders in the end.
All right, well, Zeke, we'll see you next week, and hopefully see you next week. We wish you the best of luck, man.
All right. Thanks.
Zeke Reyes setting himself out of the booth. Solid 5th place finish for him tonight. That's going to conclude our interviews. I don't think we have anyone waiting in the booth here. So I think we're going to go ahead and, Kenneth, you want to wrap this up?
All right, well, we got the top 5 interviews in, and they're pretty much up this post-race coverage. But I think before we on, it's a good reminder to take a look back at what we have coming for you next week and the rest of the schedule moving forward. Las Vegas next week. That'll be an interesting race to find out which drivers break into the top 10 and get a chance to run for that iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series Championship. Again, we mentioned it over the course of the night with Nick Miller, with Blaze McKinney, a couple of drivers who didn't attend this race, and how those points will shake out. So that's something to watch for as we go down next week. And, next week, it's pretty much it for drivers who are outside of the top 10. You have to make a move, forever hold your peace. How do you think that's really going to work out, considering, especially in Nick Miller's case?
Yeah, I think those guys who are currently sitting just outside the top 10 are going to be really aggressive next week at Vegas. I think they're going to just strive for every position, get every point they can get, and hopefully score a spot in the playoffs. So I think the playoffs are going to be a lot of fun for these guys, and it's going to be a lot of fun for us up in the booth. We appreciate everyone in the YouTube chat for coming out here and watching with us. We appreciate our loyal viewers, our good friends, and we appreciate the constant support for our streams. So yeah,
Las Vegas is going to be a fun show to watch. And you can tune in next week, Monday night, 9 p.m. That'll be right here on the K Bueno Racing Vegas Motor Speedway for the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series race number 9. And if you want to tune in for more, tomorrow night we have action from Martinsville Speedway. That'll be the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on the K Bueno Racing Network. That pretty much does it for us on the KBRN Post Race, brought to you by SDC. And for everyone here in the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series, for all the people here at KBRN, and for everyone making this happen, for Charlie Baier, my name is Kenneth Bueno, saying good night from the throwback track. We head next week to the Sin City, where drivers will test their luck in the best ways possible. Good night.
And wear a mask.